The Dell series has captive screws, meaning they're designed to stay captive or in place within the back plate. Um, when you're unscrewing one of the Dell screws, you'll hear it pop, like right there, or like unclick, and then you'll know that it's out. And sometimes it even like pops up after you're done. And then when it comes to removing the back plate, you should use like a blue plastic spudger. You can use the silver metal ones. Either work. I like the silver ones. They're better. Then you just put it under, you twist, and then it pops up. Sometimes it won't pop up all the way because your screw is still in place. And if you just unscrew it, you do it again, but to the other side, and it pops up. The first thing you should do when opening a device is unplug the battery, but make sure that you're not pulling it because it will rip the connection. So what you have to do is grab your two pointer fingers and just use your nails to like unclip the sides. When it comes to the battery, it has these rubber grommets right here that hold it in place before you unplug it. And you have to be careful when you're putting the battery connection back because it has small little pins on the inside. I don't know if you can see them, but it has small, tiny little pins, and they're easily damaged if the battery is not connected exactly as it should be. It is really important that you're able to identify each screw type and distinguish them from one another. The Dell is tricky in that the main two screw types are both black and look similar. The purpose of this task is to identify one of each of the internal component screws, identify the screw size. Everything is labeled. The labels are like right here on top of the screws. It says M2.5 times 5 and then M2 times 4. We call these M4s and then we call these M5s. You need to remove one of each types of these screws, put it in your tray, and it has to be labeled, and identify how many of each of the screw type exists in the device. So we have the M5s here. You'll only find them on the hinges, so you'll have 3 on each hinge, and then you're also going to find one here in the IO shields of each side. So they have one here, and then 3 and 3. So in total, that is 8 M5 screws, and the M4 screws are the screws that are used in the majority of the Dell. So you'll have one here, 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 and then some in the IO shield. So I have my metal tray here, and I'm going to remove one M5 from the IO shield. Now, I did forget to mention that there is only one silver screw, and it is for the Wi-Fi IO shield. That is the only different one. So I'm going to take this out. And then I'm also going to take out an M4 screw. So when you're looking at them, you can tell that the M5 is like, it has a fatter bottom. I don't know, that sounds weird. And it's longer, while the M4 is shorter and stubbier here. So compared back to back, they look like this. And then the Wi-Fi is silver and it's shorter. One often overlooked aspect of learning a new device is identifying where screws and where they are not. This will avoid repair mistakes and time spent. A little pro tip that you can use is using the backplate to ID where the black backplate screws are. So if I put it like right on top, I can just check right under here. There's one of the backplate screw locations. While you're looking at the backplate, you can notice the manufacturing information that's here, including the model of the Chromebook and the asset tag. So using the backplate, you can identify that there's a backplate screw here, 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 and here. We have multiple devices in our fleet of Chromebooks, so it's always a good idea to commit battery types and models to memory. On a Dell, you'll find it here. The Dell 3120 has a type YRDD6 type battery. We always start our teardown with removing the battery. Battery screws are here, here, and here. They're all M4s, so we're going to remove the battery. This is the last screw, and we have our 3 battery screws here. And make sure that before you do this, you have the battery unplugged, and you can just pull it off, and it comes right off. The Dell 3120 series has multiple I/O shields. One here, 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 and here. I/O stands for input and output, shield, or plate, and typically serves to ensure a component is installed correctly and properly aligned, allows for airflow, and reduces electromagnetic interference. Note that the Wi-Fi I/O is the only silver screw in the device. The middle screws of the right and left I/O are both M5s. So this is an M5 and this is an M5. I'm going to show you right now how there is a hook here that keeps this secured, and it goes under the hinge. After you remove the screw from the I/O shield, the LCD I/O shield, you'll see that it just pops up immediately. Don't just pull it up because there's a hook. You just pull it out like that. And there's a hook right here that goes under the hinge. These two are a little bit different. I'm going to show you right now. When you're removing the I/O shield, it is ideal that you take off the LCD one first because it covers the other I/O shield right here. This aisle shield on the bottom, you can just easily move it and it comes off after you remove the screws. This one's a little bit more difficult because you have to, it has like a little notch right here that you have to stick it into, and then it also has a hook over here like the LCD screw. So what you can do, I just like to go in this corner here and just kind of move it a little bit, and then it lifts up, and then you can just wiggle it and it comes out. It has the little hook here at the bottom, and then it has the notch right here. The other IO shields are pretty easy. You just take the screws out, and this one also has a notch, so you can just pull it out, and it also has a hook on the side right here, and it has another notch. And this one you can just pull out like that. And then for the Wi-Fi screw, it is the only silver screw. So you just take this out, you put it in your tray, and then you can just pull this up. First, you will remove all mobile connections. We've already removed the IO shield, so we'll just focus on the connections. The most commonly broken connections include the keyboard and the trackpad. We'll talk about the Wi-Fi card before we reassemble, as this is a potential repair mistake. As well as the connections that have internal pins, like the batteries. They have pins on the inside of the battery connection. So you have to be careful when you pull those out. And then we're going to remove all the screws from the motherboard, and they are all M4 screws. So let's get started with the keyboard connection. The keyboard connection, people love to just like push this down as hard as they can, these little black notches here. You're just supposed to like do a light push down and it'll unclick, and then you can either use a pen, you can use like the back of your spudger to kind of like help you guide it and pull it out, but I just like to slide it out like this. And then it's out. Same thing with the trackpad. The locking pin right here, you can either unclip it with your nails or you can unclip it with a spudger and just unclip it like that. Next, we're going to disconnect the LCD connection. It has this little protective plastic sheet over it. You just push it over, and the locking clip is actually on this side. So you just grab your spudger and you just unclip, and then you can just unstick this because it's glued on there, and then just pull it off. Let's remove the speaker connection. The way you remove the rest of these connections, these tiny little ones, is how you remove this one. You just grab 2 fingers, one on each side, and then pull down so that you don't ruin the internal pins. And then same with this. I like to just flip this over, and you can do the same thing. Don't pull on the connection because it will start showing the internal cables, which will slowly start ruining the connection, and it'll affect its performance. Some of these are stuck on the bottom. You can just take them off. For the Wi-Fi coaxial cables, you can just grab your spudger and just unclip them, or you can just like slowly take them off. And then these, the most common error is that there is the locking clip on this side, this white part, but it's actually this grayish part here. right there. And if you try opening it from this side, you're going to ruin the internal pins. So you can just grab your spudger again, or you can use your fingernails and then just unclip. And then you just take these out. After you're done removing the screws from the motherboard, you can just start lifting it up slowly. And then on the bottom of the motherboard, there's going to be like a port bracket. You can just take that out. And then after you remove these two, take your motherboard and put it on a blank piece of paper and locate all connections as you see on the demonstration image. Replace the image with your own. This might be the first time you've removed a motherboard on a Chromebook. Anytime a motherboard is replaced, you must remember to make sure the new motherboard has a thermal pad. Thermal pads are non-conductive, providing electrical insulation between components and may provide some degree of cushion, absorbing minor vibrations or shocks. Their purpose is to prevent overheating in a Chromebook by dissipating heat to the chassis. Thermal pad on your device may have become dry and a little brittle, and you may need to replace it. We are currently experimenting with the role of thermal pad tape for replacing old thermal pads. It is located in the Dell Mobo bin in the TSI closet, and you just simply cut the tape to fit. This is the roll of thermal pad tape. You just pull off the edge and you would cut it like a normal piece of tape, and you just put it down in the area that you need. And then you can just peel off the top part. This is the thermal pad here, and it goes right under the motherboard. While you have the motherboard disconnected, take a close-up image of the pins inside of the battery connection. Battery connection is right here, and you have to take a picture of these pins on the inside. These pinned connections have a high likelihood of damage if you do not connect them properly by making sure the connector is perfectly perpendicular before seating the battery. Take a close-up picture of the pins on the battery connection of the motherboard. You'll have to hold it sideways like I was holding it. And it is vital that you identify them before you continue with your assembly. You've already removed the I/O to the daughter board that is right here. Remove the M4 screws that are here, here, and here, and here, that are holding down the daughter board. When replacing the daughter board, treat all the connections as part of a component. Or in other words, you only disconnect the ribbon cables connected to the motherboard while leaving them connected to the daughter board. When you're taking out the daughter board, you have to make sure that you keep these all together. These are part of the daughter board, and in other devices, you'll have the power cord down here too. You also keep that there because it's part of the daughter board. One common repair error we see in students is mistakenly attempting to disconnect the locking clips from the other side. This is the side that I'm talking about, the white side here, which could cause damage to the motherboard pins on the inside here. So when you're trying to get rid of the ribbon cables, the locking clip is the black part, and you just flick up with your nails, or you can do it with a spudger as well. The daughter board will now be able to be removed. It's removed. Now insert your image. The trackpad is a little trickier as it has multiple screw types, a bracket, and is secured by tape throughout. The tape is here, this is the bracket, and underneath is the trackpad. The trackpad has these tiny silver screws. They're the same as the Wi-Fi screw, and it also has these wider, thinner silver screws here. One here, here, and here. They both have 3 of each. So the first thing you want to do is remove this tape. It's kind of like the daughter board where you don't take the connection off because it's part of the component. Um, you have to be careful when you're removing this because you don't want to forget how this is folded. Um, and then you can proceed with taking off the bracket screws first. I have already started to remove the bracket screws, but if you have trouble remembering where things go, you can take a picture of this before you start tearing it down, because every time we have any images we have of the Chromebook, the trackpad is always being covered by the battery. So you can do that to help you. And as you can see, there is tape attached here and here. I just like to peel it off. And then you have the bracket. Sometimes this will come off because of the tape, but you can just put it back into place and there's no issues. Now I'm going to take off the thinner, wider screws here. After all the screws have been removed, you can take out the trackpad. You can just take it out like this, but I like to just push the screen down, and then I have like this gap here, and I can just push up here. And there is going to be more tape, so just make sure that you take care of that. And the trackpad is removed, and this is what it looks like. And then there's a hole in the middle, so just be careful because the screen's right underneath. We will frequently remove the LCD assembly for repairs. When we use the term LCD assembly, we are referring to the entire top half of the Chromebook with the LCD here and the back panel housing all LCD internals. If this is your first time removing an LCD assembly from a Dell, there's a strong likelihood that you could damage the chassis because of its complexity. So the LCD is right under. It's this whole screen here. Well, the whole, yeah. And the first thing we have to do is identify the connections coming from each side of the LCD. So we have the LCD connection, we have the Wi-Fi coaxial cables, we have the G sensor, and we have the camera. These connections are consistent on the 3110 and the 3120. They are routed through the sides of the hinges on both sides. You can see that they're coming from the side of the hinges. And the Wi-Fi coaxial cable and the G sensor is secured by a rubber grommet right here. right here. You've already removed the IO shields, so all we have to do is remove the M5 hinge screws. We have 3 on each side, here, 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 and we have another 3 here, here, and here. In order to remove the LCD, we need to unfold this and make sure that the screen, that you see the Dell sign right in front of you as you're removing the screws, and make sure that it's straight up. And then you can go and remove these screws on each side. One of the great aspects of the Dell 3100 series is that all the keyboards are modular, meaning you can remove them individually without having to take out any other internal components or replace the entire palm rest or chassis. They're also backwards compatible, meaning we can use keyboards from any of the Dell 3100, 3110, and 3120 series interchangeably. We will frequently remove the keyboard to look for spills. It is a pretty violent act the first time the keyboard is removed because there's tiny little pins holding it to the palm rest. To remove the keyboard, which is something we frequently do, you will locate the 2 access points. There's one below the daughter board cables right here, and then there is another one here. You will first make sure the keyboard ribbon is disconnected, and it is because we removed the motherboard already. And you have to make sure that it is disconnected because it is a frequently broken connection point. So be careful when you're removing it, that you're gently pressing each side of the connection down to disengage, making sure you stop your force once the plastic locking piece is disengaged. From there, we will open up the device, making sure we've created a gap for the keyboard to dislodge. It usually just hangs over. I'll show you how to properly remove it. So you can grab either end of the screwdriver, and you can usually when you have it connected to the screen, since we're doing the teardown, it's not connected to the screen, but you would usually fold it upwards, and the LCD would kind of be like this. So you just hold it upwards, I think is the best way. You put your screwdriver in one of the little holes and you just push. And it's usually really hard the first time because it's glued and there's pins in there. But once you get the first one, the second one is easier. And then you can see it's kind of like going out a little bit. You can just go in with your screwdriver again and put some more force into it. The last thing you have to do, it's usually harder to do because I just did it. You have to, instead of pulling upward, you have to pull outward so that you don't break these pins. And then you have the keyboard. Again, make sure that you disconnect the keyboard connection because it's right under this. So when you start taking this out, it's going to pull right from under and pull up here. So there's a computer with a really bad spill. When you're removing the keyboard, it's frequently because there is a spill that you're trying to check out that could have affected the motherboard. So with all the components, these are the 2 points, 1 and 2. But when you're dealing with a full assembly, like I showed before, you need to fold it, but like leave some space open because you don't want it to hit the screen and damage the screen. So it's going to be up in like a little tower. It should stay up on its own, and you just push through and it comes right out. But you can see the spill here, all that brownish red stuff. You will only remove speakers when we are replacing the palm rest, which is unfortunately a fairly common repair, as the hinges of the Dell 3100 series will commonly rip front of the palm rest. Before you remove anything that has a longer cable, always pay attention to how it is routed in the device, such as here by the speakers. The wire for the speakers is like routed on the bottom. So what I do before a repair, I just like to take a picture of all the components that I'm going to take off. So like if I'm doing a whole tear down, which is what we're doing, I would take a picture of this and get like a close-up of the routing before I actually remove it, so that I have a visual to follow. Because if you don't follow the routing, you're gonna have a hard time putting the back plate back on. You'll notice that the 3120 has a speaker routed on the bottom. So the first thing we're gonna do, if you were doing like a normal speaker repair, you would disconnect the speaker connection from the motherboard. We're gonna start with one speaker, and we're going to pull from the opposite direction from the tab. There's little tabs here, right here, on each of the little gibbets of the 3120. And yeah, so I'm just going to take a picture of this for when I put it back on, and then I will take off the speaker. So you can tell that these tabs are going this way, so we have to pull upward and go the other way. Or you could just go straight up and it works too. Just be careful with the little hooks. And then you have one speaker removed, but you'll notice that there's some tape here, so you're going to have to take that off. Just be careful that you're not pulling the speaker to do it. Just go directly on the tape, and then you can deroute it. There's some more tape here, and then you do the same thing on the other speaker. And just remove the tape. And that is how you remove the speakers. We will frequently reseat internal LCD connections in the 3100 series for troubleshooting or repairs, especially after students report dropping their device or it is clear that they did. You will use a metal spudger to slide into the assembly, and you'll find the corner is the easiest place to start. Once you've gained access, you will create separation by working with the spudger across the top of the device, twisting it to release the clips. And once you have the corner open, it helps to continue opening the rest. It is recommended that you nudge your finger in there in the first opening so that it keeps it open. Um, it's just simpler that way. The purpose of this assignment is for you to know the connections and their functions, but this video is only going to focus on opening the assembly. So, like I said before, you're going to grab your metal spudger. You're not going to use a spudger like this because it's harder to get access into the corner. So you're going to use a thin metal spudger, and you're just going to go into one of the corners and just put it in and then twist, and it'll pop open. And then you just put something in there and then keep opening it. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you're putting the spudger into the corner, you can't just go like straight like this. You notice it's not going to go in that direction, so you kind of have to go sideways to go in, and sideways you'll hear it go in, and then you twist a little bit and you can hear it unclick, and then once you look, it's starting to open, and then you'll just continue doing that around the whole LCD. After you have continued using the spudger all around, you are able to finally open it. Make sure that you don't open it all the way, because there are some connections still connecting and you could rip them off. They're all the way at the bottom. We will get into the connections in the next video. At this point, we've accessed the internals of the LCD. You'll do this to either replace a broken LCD or reseat internal connections such as a digitizer. The main LCD or EMR cable connection, which we would reseat if there is no power to the screen is blank, but it's on. This is the LCD connection. The digitizer is right here. The digitizer is used for touchscreen, the stylus functionality. And if we had any problems with that, we would obviously reseat the digitizer. For the front-facing camera, which is over here, we would reseat this if the camera isn't working, if it's not showing up. This is the camera, and the G sensor is always here. The G sensor is if there's a problem with tablet mode, then we would reseat this. And that's it. Now you know how to access the internals of the LCD and what each connection is. Next, you're going to demonstrate how to remove the LCD, which we would do in the instance of a broken or damaged LCD. First, we'll focus on the main LCD connection, which is right here. You're going to want to grab a metal spudger and kind of peel the edge off just a little bit, and it'll come off. And then you'll see like a little blue piece of tape. You can peel that up with your spudger too, but just be extremely careful, or you could just do it with your fingers. And just put that to the side over here. And then there's going to be a locking clip here on the side. It's kind of like orange. Let me see if I can get a close up. It's right here, this orangey part. You're going to use your spudger and you're just going to flick it up, because this is the locking clip, and then it'll go up and you can just put it up against the tape so it doesn't bother you. The connection is the gold part, so what you're going to want to do is just pull outwards, out this way, and then it comes off, and then there's going to be tape on the digitizer, so you can just peel that off, and then there's like a mini connection here. It comes off really easily, so just be careful. It'll go right here, and I'll show you how to put that back in the next video. But this is how you remove the LCD from the entire assembly. Now that we've disconnected the LCD, we're going to reconnect it. We're going to start with the LCD connection first. So This gets a little difficult when you're trying to align them, but it should kind of look like this. The hinges should go downwards so that it kind of like holds itself up, and just make sure that the connections are under and out of the way. For the LCD, you're gonna want to pull the tape back just a little bit so it can give you a little wiggle room to work. And then you're just going to like pull the LCD up and just make sure that the locking clip, the red one that we talked about earlier, goes up so that you're able to put the connection in. And you want to be careful because for this one, you're going to have to go inward instead of outward. And then you'll hear it click once it's in there. And then the locking clip looks like it's in place, but you have to push it down until you hear the click. There it is. And then we're going to grab the little blue tab from earlier and put it on top of the locking clip and the gold part. And then you can just push the LCD tape back on. When the tape doesn't want to stick and it's like coming off, we have this conductive tape. It's like a bronzy color. You can just use this and you can cut it with a pair of scissors and you just put it on top. After we connected the LCD and we put the conductive tape on top, we still have the digitizer left. You can tell that there's a little connection here, and the tape. This one, when you remove it for the first time, it just like unsticks forever. So this one is like a connection that you're like required to put conductive tape on top of. You're going to slide this one in to the connection. It's kind of like a bluish area. You just slide it in, and then I'll show you what to do after that. After you have reconnected the digitizer connection, one thing I forgot to mention was that you're gonna feel it like click in while you're putting it in to the connection. And then after that, you can like tell that the tape is like up and it doesn't want to stick down again. You're just gonna grab a piece of conductive tape again and put it on top to hold it. It should look something like this. You can see the tape on top of the digitizer connection and the tape on top of the LCD connection. And then you can just make sure that the LCD tape over here is back on. And you can just snap it back together now. When you're snapping the clips back together, just make sure that you're going all around the LCD, not just the sides and the top. Make sure you do the bottom too. And you can tell when a connection isn't snapped back in, when it's like this. It's like open. And you can just click it in. That's it. At this point, you should have torn the device completely and have all your components in the metal tray. The IOs and screws are organized and labeled for easy identification and are ready to be reassembled. You can have post-it notes here too, but it's a lot of work if you label them and then put them under the screws. That's how I started, but then you start like recognizing all the screws and then you're like, I don't really need the post-it notes anymore. I've labeled all of the screws. I have my hinge screws here. I have my M4 screws here. I have my trackpad screws, my IO M5 screws, and my Wi-Fi screw. I also have all my IO shields here, the LCD, Wi-Fi, this one that goes under the motherboard, and then these are the IO shields on the left and right side, and this is the trackpad IO. We're going to reassemble the trackpad. When you're putting this back, you have to make sure that the trackpad cable is towards the top so that you don't put it the wrong way. And you just lay it on top of here and it goes right in. Sometimes your cable can look like this or like really wonky. Just follow the line and you can just stick it back onto the chassis. We're going to put the screws back. We do have the IO shield that we're going to put in right now. We're going to put the wider screws here, here, and here, and then we're going to put the IO shield on top and put the smaller screws in. One key thing to remember is that the trackpad has a lot of this silver tape. Just make sure that you're reattaching it where it goes. It always goes in a straight line here, here, and here. We're going to reattach the trackpad IO shield with these screws here, here, and here. This is the trackpad replaced. Remember, once again, just make sure that this is folded the right way and that it's taped up on the chassis so that it doesn't move. And make sure that your tape is in the correct areas. Here, here, here. And that's it. Getting the LCD assembly back on the Dell 3100 series Chromebook is a little tricky. Make sure to first move the hinges. You're going to seat it in place to make sure that the cables are in the correct position. You're going to secure the M5 hinge screws, and you're not going to worry about the LCD connections yet. It is a good reminder that anytime we have to replace or remove the LCD, we need to test for touch and stylus functionality. So you're going to have your hinges out like this, like if it were sitting, and then you're just going to lay it right on top of the chassis until you see it move into its screw holes, and then you can have somebody hold it for you. I have this thing holding it in the back, and you just grab your 6 hinge screws and you're going to start screwing in. You should start with one on each side so that it's stable enough to hold itself. Another thing I forgot to mention is that the hinge screw areas are going to have like this little arrow pointing to them. So there's only really 3 spots, one here, here, and here, and then this one, and this one. These last ones on the corner are backplate screws. So it's common for people to put screws there and be confused why they don't go in all the way. So just continue putting in the rest of the screws, and then we'll go on to the next step.
Alright, do you want to go record some more?
After you're done screwing it in, you can unfold it, and it'll go right under, and it's pretty secure.
Maybe you should open it up, make sure there's nothing in the back of it.
Make sure that you just test touch and stylus functionality. That's it.
The ones that are done go? Yeah.
We are going to reattach the motherboard. We're going to make sure that all the connections are on the outside, able to be reconnected. And we're going to lay the motherboard out in the correct position. Many times a student will forget to verify the world-facing camera is back in the palm rest or the chassis, or has forgotten to transfer it. It goes right here. It's already in here, so you won't have to worry about that. And it gets attached with this black screw here. We're going to attach the screws only. We're not going to connect any connections. And we're just going to place this in like this. One more thing I forgot to mention is that just make sure that you have a thermal pad. It could either be here or it could be on the back of the motherboard, but it has to be covering this part here. And then you reconnect the motherboard with M4 screws. So in total, you're going to have 3 and 4 motherboard M4 screws. We are going to reinstall the daughter board. The first thing you're going to always make sure you have on the daughter board is the Type C port bracket. It's black. I mean, it's like grayish. I don't think I can pick it out, but I do have another one. It looks like this. We also have one on the motherboard. So there's 2 in total. Other Dells only have one, and they usually have it on the motherboard side. This one has it on both. So we're going to slide it in at a 45-degree angle, and you're going to know when it's secure because you're going to hear the clicks. And then we'll put in the screws. So 45-degree angle, and we just slide in. And you heard it click a little bit. You're also going to have like these little silver like towers over here. There's one. It's this one right here. This one. So once you see that that's in place right here, then you'll know that it's secure. And obviously when you see that they're lined up with all the screw holes, and then you're going to start putting the screws in. There's going to be one here, here, and then here. These screws here will be put in after we attach the IO shield, which is going to be in the next video. So I'm going to put a screw here, here, and here, and then we're going to reconnect the daughter board connections. I forgot to mention that there will be another motherboard here, motherboard screw here, the M4s. You can also see that these screws are labeled. They all say M24 here, or here, and they have the little white arrow. We're not going to attach the IO shields yet. That'll be in another video, but we are going to connect the daughter board connection. You can use the little tab that's right here to push it in to make sure that it's secured, and then you close the locking clip. After you've reconnected the daughter board connections here to the motherboard, you have successfully reinstalled the daughter board. In this video, we are going to reconnect all the motherboard connections. You want to be very careful, specifically with the trackpad, the keyboard, and the Wi-Fi coaxial cables. We're not going to worry about the I/O shields yet. We're going to start with the LCD cable and the trackpad cable. Before you start jabbing them in there, just make sure that the locking clip is up. And you can use the little blue tab that's here too. Put it in. The LCD, just make sure that the plastic tab is over the connection. And we're gonna do the Wi-Fi coaxial antennas next. Don't use a metal spudger, use a plastic one, and if you forget what colors go on which spot, it has them labeled. It says black and white on each side. So the black goes here and the white goes here, and you just push them down with the plastic spudger and until you hear it click. The last two connections we're gonna do are the G sensor and the world facing camera. These, just make sure that you're lining them up carefully so that you don't ruin the pins on the inside, and then you can just push them in with the tips of your finger on both sides. One thing that you should do after you connect the cables is put them into like this rubber grommet right here so that they're not in the way and they don't affect any other connections around. It's right here. These are the different types of I/O shields on the 3120. The only one we're missing is the trackpad, but we already put it in the previous video. This is the Wi-Fi I/O shield. This is the LCD. It has like two hooks on the end here. And then we have the left I/O shields. These go together. It's like a puzzle piece. They like connect together, like right here. And they only have, well, this one only has a hook on this side, and it'll go right here. And then this one is the right I/O shield. You know it's the right I/O shield because it kind of like hooks up on the side here. And we're gonna put this here. For this one, you're gonna have to like tilt it up and then push it in, and then it'll line up with these screw holes, and then that's how you'll know it's in all the way. And then for the left I/O shield, you put this one in with the hook first, and you're just gonna like hook it on here. And then this one for the charge port, you don't have to push this one in, so that one's easier. And then this one just goes in right on top, like the puzzle piece that's missing, and they connect. And then the LCD I/O shield, you also have to like lift up so that you can hook it, and then it goes right on top. And then the Wi-Fi, you just lay it on top here in the middle of the coaxial cables, and it'll lay right there. And then you're just going to place an M4 screw here, M4 screw here, and then these two areas, it's this one and this one. These are M5 screws. They're the hinge screws. And then the other screw holes are just M4s. So you can just put the screws in, and then that's it. When putting the keyboard back in, make sure that the first thing you note is the slots on the inside here. This is where these notches here go in. and going right into those. Note that the ribbon cable of the keyboard is supposed to feed through the keyboard connection here. It's like a slot. And make sure that you snap it into place on all areas, and I'll show you how to do that right now. You're going to open the computer as if you were going to type, and you're going to hold it up at an angle. Make sure that it's lined up with the keyboard, and as you're going in towards the little slits all the way at the end, make sure that you're putting the keyboard in at the same time in that slot on the bottom. And then you can just start pushing it down so you hear the clicks. If you're not sure whether or not you have connected the keyboard all the way, you can look at it through the side, and if you see like any bumps, it's because you have not connected it in one certain area. It should be all straight and leveled. If there's an area that you need, you could just go like this and apply pressure down. It usually gets them all out. Last thing we're going to do is reconnect the keyboard connection. Make sure that the pins are out, these black ones here by the keyboard, and then make sure that the connection is lined up before you put it in, and then you can just slide it in, and then you just push these pins back to hold it. One of the most important connections is the speaker. It's not like it's a connection, it connects over here. But you have to make sure that you line it up the right way in order for the back plate to close up all the way. I did mention in the last video that you should take a picture of the speakers before you take them apart, and that's what I have as like my guideline. And we're going to replace these speakers. So you just have to make sure that you're looking at how the cables are lined up here. More specifically, they kind of go like up in an M, and that's what we're going to do right now. The first thing we're going to do is put these speakers in place. Before you put them in, you just have to know which way the little hooks are going. These are going to the left, so you're going to, if you're having trouble like identifying which way it goes, it has right to left, and the left always goes on your opposing side because this is the way you're using a computer. It's always the opposite. So since these are going towards the left, you're gonna tilt it on the left here, and it'll go right in. And then since these are also going to the left, you have to tilt them in. Okay, and then I wouldn't put the tape in place yet. You can put the speaker one here and the other one over here on this side, but I would not attach this one yet because we have to guide them first.
I have one today.
The last part we're going to put into the device is the battery. It has 3 screw holes. So we're going to screw it here, here, and here, and then that's it. And just make sure to keep it unplugged unless you need it on to test it for a repair.